It's Ant Hill time. I think this one is about to be a spicy meatball
Maybe a little
because
bit. Maybe a little bit.
Jay Hill's in the house, and that means controversy is coming. Jay Hill is already very opinionated about last night's game, and I'm excited to get into it. This is going to be a fun one, Jason. So let's get it started. 49ers versus Broncos. What did you think about the game?
I think that we have a hell of a defense, and we have a quarterback who I don't want to hear the excuses of, oh, my timing's off. I need to get you. It's the same damn players you play with for last.
Ray McLeod?
That's one guy.
Danny Gray?
No, they didn't play a ton. That's the fourth and fifth receivers. It's the same Jawan Jennings. It's the same Jeff Wilson. It's the same George Kittle. It's the same Debo and the same Ayuk. And he's still throwing balls behind guys over the middle and late and getting picked and not seeing the rush. Same guy. This is why I was totally okay with a training year for Trey. This game right here, because like I've said, Jimmy cannot beat good defenses and really good quarterbacks. Russ had one drive. Our defense let down for one series, 1 5-minute stretch. They weren't perfect. And we lost that game.
I'm with you. The defense did their part. The special teams did their part. They were fantastic. One phase of the game didn't quite meet expectations, and that's this 49ers offense. I think that when it comes down to it, though, Jimmy Garoppolo made mistakes. Jimmy Garoppolo made some plays. It's not as bad as everyone says. It's not completely over the top, atrocious. Like
scored 10 points.
They scored 10 points, yes, but it's not just on Jimmy Garoppolo. Did Jawan Jennings not bobble a ball along the sidelines? Did Jake Brendel and have a bad snap?
That was on him. That was not on Jimmy.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. There's other people that contribute to this too. I'm just keeping it real. Jimmy, did he have enough problems? Did he create enough problems? Yes, he did. That last interception was a terrible look. That was a bad throw. He threw into coverage. K'Wan Williams is right there. They're running the lurk all throughout the game. Some of them you recognized. That's why you've seen some of the throws behind receivers, like one to Brandon Ayuk. It's behind him because he sees the lurk in the middle of the field. If he leads him, it's an interception.
Right.
So I think sometimes it's Jimmy trying to make the right throw. Was it always accurate? Was it always good? No. But I think there's plenty of blame to go around. Do I think Jimmy Garoppolo deserves some of it? Absolutely. Whenever you turn over the football, whenever you're a quarterback and you don't win the football game, you deserve it. But I think one of the arguments that's went around for a long time is that Jimmy Garoppolo can't win games by himself. Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy that took the 49ers to the NFC Championship game, not the guy that took them to the Super Bowl. Then why do we always put all of the blame on Jimmy Garoppolo when some players around him don't live up to expectations to help Jimmy win football games?
That's a fair question. I would say that it's like the starting pitcher in baseball. If you go out there and pitch 8 innings and give up 1 run and your team loses 1-0, it's on you because you're the starter. The starting pitcher gets all the hype. Starting pitcher gets all the money. Well, in NFL, the starting quarterback gets all the hype and gets the money. So, I mean, is it totally fair? No, but that's kind of how it goes, though.
I think in my mindset, you just gave it the baseball reference. If a starting pitcher loses 1-0, that's not on the starting pitcher. That's on the offense for not getting it done. Period.
That's been my Matt Cain argument for 15 years.
Right. So I think that that you could put that in the defensive category. They were the starting pitcher in this. They did a really good job. Anytime you give up 11 points in a football game,
a team punched 10 times.
Yeah, you should win. And really, they didn't give up 11 points. 2 of those were Jimmy Garoppolo on the safety. And you know what? I think that this game was one of those ones that was weird to watch. Because that first drive for the 49ers was absolutely fantastic.
When Kyle scripts the plays, the first 15, they score on their opening 15, 20 plays at a very high rate.
Yeah, I think that
that middle part.
Their first plays are always good. However, there are because I have a feeling that this is going to turn towards Kyle Shanahan is a bad play caller or something of that nature.
On Twitter, it already is.
It has.
It's the fire Kyle.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, but. We'll talk about Jimmy struggling. We'll talk about miscues and plays that should have happened, like the Debo getting deep for what could have been a touchdown. But then we'll say Kyle didn't call plays right. If Kyle doesn't call plays right, there's not going to be
wider
open
guys uncovered all the time.
Right. So I think
Yeah.
that's a kind of an interesting, dynamic is, of course, Jimmy's going to catch the brunt. There's a lot of people that really want Trey Lance to be the starting quarterback. I mean, I wanted to see Trey Lance and what he could do this year.
As I said, I'll give him the whole year.
Yeah, I wanted to see the development because I did think by the end of the football season, he was going to have a really good grip on this offense. He was going to see things the same way Kyle did.
Yep.
And then we were going to see it, transcend. But in the same regard, we can't keep comparing Jimmy Garoppolo to what Trey Lance would have done or what we think he would have done,
or hoped,
because this is what we have right now.
We're stuck with it.
But in the grand scheme of things, is Jimmy Garoppolo still not the best backup quarterback that there would have been in the league? Name a better situation where if your starting quarterback comes down, you don't have an opportunity to win. Because I think you'll agree with me on this, Jason. The Denver Broncos have a top 10 defense in this league.
I think it's top 6 or 7 myself, but I mean, it's nasty. And what concerns me about the Packers, the Broncos, the Rams is that's all from our tree. So they're going to know better how to stop what we do because that's what they do. And like going to the 5 linemen stuff, it seems to kind of create some problems for us. And I think that will be a continued blueprint that we'll see next week, and we'll see if we play the Packers too.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? They did the same thing last year, right? 5, 6 guys, bare front. What did Kyle Shanahan do? He adjusted. Him and Mike McDaniel, and a lot of people are going to argue now that it's McDaniel that came up with it. I think both were a really big part of it. But they came up with an idea last year to be able to run a running back in motion, kick a guy out, and then run underneath. It was something they did consistently. And then when they thought he was getting kicked out, then they looped in. So there are adjustments to be made. We did know the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos come from the Los Angeles Rams, so we had an understanding of what you had to do. But I still think the 49ers could have done enough to win in this game. There was enough opportunities to make plays, and they just didn't do it. And I think the conversation about Jimmy doesn't take shots down the field, there were shots down the field in this game.
I have never been so happy with an incomplete pass as I was when he threw a ball outside the numbers deep to Ayuk. It's like, oh, look, we're trying to actually extend the field out wide a little bit. Well, now it didn't get caught, but at least it was like, you at least have to put that thought in a defense that if you get up too much, if you get 8 guys in the box, we've got guys to get deep on you. And so that was at least something that was like, oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, you also had Deebo Samuel with the deep ball down the sidelines.
Yep.
You had Kyle Juszczyk with an absolutely fantastic catch along the sidelines for 24 yards.
That's got to be one that might be, when the year's over, one of the top 10 catches that a Niner player makes. For a fullback to toe tap like that is some agility that you would not expect to see from Mr. Harvard.
I think that's why I like it so much.
It was great.
It's a fullback.
It was great.
And then you have Brandon Ayuk with a 20-yard play as well. That was up the seam. They actually, used Danny Gray to run people off. Ayuk comes underneath for a great catch. So the 49ers had some plays down the field. You should have been able to add a Jawan Jennings catch as well.
I don't know he had enough space to control that ball and get his feet in. That was a pretty good ball by Jimmy, actually.
And he took an absolute hit on that play. Like, he threw it, he got mollywopped.
Yeah, he got popped hard.
And he still got the ball out there. So, I mean, that was the thing, right? This offense had opportunities. They had explosive plays. They shot themselves in the foot sometimes with penalties. There was a holding call by Mike McGlinchey on the play where Jimmy Garoppolo got the first down,
yep.
Which would have been a key,
that was
first
probably
down.
The biggest penalty that they took on offense.
Yeah, and the other conversation could be, because I've seen so many about Jimmy Garoppolo and the safety being the difference in the game. What about Kyle Shanahan not accepting the penalty on the holding call that could have forced them out of field goal range and forced a 3rd and 16?
I almost texted you on that one, and with the idea of that's just he's seen Russ too many times do bullshit where he just scramble around and just like he did on the very last drive of the game where he just scramble. He's like, oh no, we got him right here. It's a 4th down. It's going to be a longer field goal. Let's just go ahead and give him no more chances to make any crazy Russ-esque plays.
No, I understand the call, but I'm just saying, like, I think I would be willing to do the same thing as a coach. I mean, I
probably would have too, though.
I always want to take points off the board, and I want to trust my defense. But the way the 49ers have been penalized in the defensive secondary at times this year, you worry about a 5-yard
5-yard holding, which
then,
I wish they'd change that rule. To me, it should be 5 yards and down over, not because the 3rd and 25. Oh, we grabbed him. It's automatic 5 yards.
Yeah.
And first down, like that.
Yeah, or even
dumb.
make it so it's a 10-yard penalty.
Yeah, but just not the automatic first down.
No, it's a lot.
Crazy.
So let's talk about Jimmy, because Jimmy stepped in. He steps in for a Trey Lance in this game, and if you look at him as a backup, I think this is kind of acceptable. This is what you expect from a backup quarterback. If you look at it that Jimmy Garoppolo is a starter in this league, then Jimmy needs to play better. I think even Jimmy will admit he needs to play better. I don't think that's a question mark, but I think we also need to remember that it's not all on Jimmy Garoppolo, that other players around the team made mistakes too. And that's not being apologetic for Jimmy. That's just understanding that, objectively, there was a lot of people that made mistakes and the reason they didn't beat the Denver Broncos.
One of the reasons that we go out and make the trade and try and get Trey ready is so we don't have to have everybody else playing perfectly around our quarterback. He can bail the offense out rather than the offense having to bail him out on a throw behind, taking unnecessary sack, all that kind of stuff. So yes, when from that angle, Debo and Juwan, those guys have to step up and help Jimmy because they're better than he is. So, but at the same time, like, bro, you've been in this offense for 5 years now. Like, come on, and you know what Denver's gonna do. It's the Rams, one of the Rams' old coaches. You should kind of know what's coming. And once again, late in the game, he had the ball kind of moving a little bit, and the first part of the game had the ball moving. But like the Eagle game last year, and if you go throughout the year, that second and third quarter, the offense seems to sputter. And it's not all on Jimmy. I think some of it could be on Kyle. Some of it could be on everybody else. Like it's a both and. But I'm tired of seeing the offense start off really good, or like Titan game last year, scored in the first two possessions and didn't score again until late in the fourth. So there's something that is a disconnect with Kyle and Jimmy and the rest of the offensive players where they can't put 3 quarters of good offensive football together still very often, or against a above average defense. If you're playing a crappy defense, then sure, but if you're playing an above average or really good defense, like the Titans had last year, like Rams have, like the Broncos have, offense just goes, and it drives me crazy because at the end of the day, you and I are old enough to know that San Francisco used to be synonymous with scoring points at will. Like the idea that San Francisco always has had a good defense, but we were always a offensive team first. And whether it's Harbaugh or even now with Kyle, when it's Kyle and Jimmy, we're kind of carried by our defense.
No, it is. I mean, but this is the makeup that Kyle Shanahan wanted for his football team. This is the makeup that John Lynch wanted for the football team.
John Lynch did, yes.
Kyle did too. What's the first thing Kyle told John? Defensive line.
Yeah.
They are in a full agreement. I mean,
Kyle's also a Shanahan, and he likes offense.
He does
too. So
yet he doesn't invest highly in his offensive line. Besides Trent Williams. So I mean, that's the thing, right? He believes that he can get by with certain things, and he puts the investment in the defensive line every single year. This year, Drake Jackson. They could have went and got an offensive weapon.
He looked good last night.
He did.
He looked good last night.
What I'm saying
he's coming. He's coming good.
This defensive unit has been built by the 49ers for this exact reason, to go out there and be absolutely stifling and shut people down. The defense the defense is good, and we're going to get into the defense very much here in a second. But I do want to talk about the 49ers left tackle. Trent Williams gets rolled up on. It's an ankle sprain. He's going to be out for several weeks. So that means they're going to have a decision. They had Jaylon Moore because Chris Forster likes to go with a left guy and a right guy. So Colton McKivitz is normally a right guy. But Jaylon Moore, number one, his struggles definitely didn't help the offense get going there in that drive.
Lost.
He did not look good. That inside move by Randy Gregory absolutely smoked him. And then they had to
linebacker coming off the edge where he just watched him go by.
No, he went inside. Randy Gregory made him move inside.
It was a different guy just ran right past
Are you
him.
sure?
Yes.
Because they were giving help with George Kittle as well.
They had to.
Yeah, they did.
After that point. No, it's got to be McKivitz.
And I thought he came in and he did better than Jaylon Moore.
He at least got in the way of...
The problem is Colton McKivitz has been hurt all week as well. So, I mean, what do you think about the 49ers left tackle? What is is it McKivitz? Is he the answer? Is it hopefully Daniel Brunskill's healthy? What do you think they do? Is it Blake Hance?
Yeah, it's gotta at least for this week, it's gotta be McKivitz, because I don't think he at least versus the Rams last year was at least decent. Like,
Yeah, he only give up 2 sacks.
I said decent.
That's decent.
When you watch what Jaylon Moore did, and you think about the Rams at some points having Aaron Donald in front of him, that's decent.
I think the good news for Colton McKivitz and the 49ers is Von Miller doesn't play for the Los Angeles Rams anymore.
That'll help too.
Yeah, that's big time. But yeah, Colton McKivitz has got to be that guy. This is exactly why you have the versatile lineman that you have. So they're gonna have to step in for Trey, and it's not a great proposition right now, but you're hoping that you can
Running
get through some of these
out,
games.
Left tackle out, quarterback out. Like your 3 most important spots on the offense are all hurt. It's great. I do like the idea that, I've never been so happy to hear is an ankle injury as I was last night, because when I watched that video and the way his leg went up and in, I thought it was a knee.
Oh, I said ankle right away.
I thought he was done.
I was watching the game with Warren, and I just looked over and I said it's an ankle. And then when it came out, the report it was an ankle. It was pretty easy.
I was, ankle, I'll take it.
Former offensive lineman, I'm like, yeah, that's an ankle. Sorry, I got rolled up on, and there's no way to prepare for that.
Well, I was gonna say, since this is his second ankle in a year, should he wear different ankle braces or supports?
If you wear ankle braces, it could limit your flexibility,
Okay.
your weight, your movement. All those things stiffen you up, and he's built on his athletic ability. So I mean, you just don't want to hinder that. So I mean, it's tough. It really
bad
is.
time too, because it was just after they had gone through a whole sequence of how dominant he is and all this praise. Collinsworth said he's like the best player in the whole sport, and then 5 minutes later, and he's down and being carried.
I think what's frustrating too is this DJ Jones that landed on him. It's just like when Kerry Hyder landed on Jimmy Garoppolo last year. Like, come on. But let's talk about the 49ers defense now, because the 49ers defense is absolutely fantastic. And that's the shining thing, right? They are as advertised. This is one of the top defenses, if not the top defense in the entire league. They shut down the Denver Broncos offense the entire game, besides the one drive where Russ makes some improv plays. You got to expect those to happen. And at the end of the game, they show Charles Omenihu who's sitting on the bench, and they cut right as he's saying, "How in the F?" And I think he's saying, "How in the F did we give up 11 points and lose this game?"
Yeah, it's probably that if this continues for a couple more weeks where they give up 12 or 14 or less, and the offense scores 8, 9, or 10. I just hope that it doesn't start to create a little tension in the locker room, because, man, that defense is just it. I keep coming on the show and keep praising them and saying how awesome they are, and then the next week that they go out and play even better. They're even more dominant against this time. The offense for Broncos hasn't been very good. We're gonna need to get the ball more to Jerry to do the Russ, but at some point it'd be nice. But they have a lot of good players. Like that offense will be good at some point, and they just, man, you could tell Russ is just looking around like I have nothing. Like I don't know even how to get the. I mean, they have eight 3-and-outs.
Yeah. It was the first time that it ever happened to Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
in
dominant
his career.
defense.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
The defense is fantastic, and I don't think there's going to be the tension, even if the offense continues to struggle, because of Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Jimmy Ward, like those guys, Jason Verrett in that locker room.
Yeah.
Eric Armstead as well. And that was a big loss. They don't have Armstead, and yet they still play the way they did.
Yeah.
So I think that they're going to keep figuring it out. The good news was, Kinlaw did pretty good. There were moments where I thought he wasn't able to handle the double team as well. But I think a lot of that goes into the fact that they were able to double team at the point of attack on one side and then single up Kevin Givens at times on the other.
Yeah.
That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for, them to have to double team both. That'll keep the linebackers clean and be able to run. We did have the injury to Azeez Al-Shire. He's going to be out for a while with an MCL sprain. But I thought Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles came in and played pretty well.
He was, he for as bad as he looked like 2 years ago, he's made a lot of progress.
Oh, Azeez Al-Shire is a big-time player, and he'll be back at some point, and we know that, he'll be helping this 49ers defense out. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was that these cornerbacks. This is the cornerback play. They've been tested, and they've stood up in a big way. I mean, I'm not going to get on Mooney Ward for giving up a catch here and there. For the most part, they're stifling, and they ran man coverage and didn't give up any plays down the field.
When I said this is probably our best secondary since that 94 team, I wasn't joking. And it's looking like that's very much a strong possibility because it took an audible back shoulder throw for them to get one clean catch on Ward.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks. Like that was the first, and it had to be that throw because he had him covered every other spot. Like it was great coverage. It was just a really good play by Russ. So
the other thing I was going to ask you about, because this 49ers defense, one thing that was apparent early on in this game was Yammer Lenore was starting at nickel and Samuel Womack was not. Now, I had said some things last week that I thought Womack had a couple of struggles, and I heard D'Amico Ryans kind of mention it, but they're real, they don't like to give criticism openly.
Yeah.
Kyle Shanahan does that just to tick people off.
Everybody.
But I was going to ask you, what did you think about Yammer Lenore's play?
He was big time. Like I was surprised to see him out there, but coverage was really good, and like you talked about before, he does a better job of stopping at outside runs than Womack does at this point. But he was up making a ton of plays. The only thing I wish the defense had been able to do is just get one turnover.
Oh, they had opportunities.
They had several.
In fact, Womack created an opportunity, knocked the ball out. There was lots of opportunities. That one that Russ throws a hot over the middle and he gets tipped up, and all three defenders, like Greenlaw, Gibson, everyone's running towards the ball, and they're just not able to get it. It's one of those times where, the Broncos converted on every turnover that the 49ers had, and the 49ers just weren't quite able to get those. But I love Yammer Lenore playing the nickel. We've been calling for this since he got drafted. And the 49ers were playing him outside. They weren't working him in. Then they finally started to. This is the first time we've seen him go in. And I thought he played really, really good. Yeah. I don't think he's giving up that spot anytime soon, which means Womack's probably going to come in certain situations. And all the while, I'm looking, and we're getting really close to Jason Verrett time, with that window being opened, because after 4 weeks they can do it. So after this next game,
too.
Jimmy Ward, Jason Verrett, could potentially come back.
Gibson had another good game too.
Oh, Tishawn Gibson's been playing so good,
playing well.
So I mean, when Jimmy Ward comes back, it's probably going to be Tarvarius Moore that goes, and that's crazy. Moore is one of our better special teams players, so they're going to have to recover from that. But I mean, the secondary could even get better, and that's crazy to say because they held another offense under 200 yards passing, and that's just tough to do in this league. And the Broncos got over 100 yards rushing, but 101 without their starting defensive tackle in there. It's a ridiculous defense. I'm looking forward to watching the defense play all year. If you enjoy defensive football, this is going to be the game for you. But I don't think a lot of people really enjoy the defense as much as some. No, I know you do, but think about all the conversations. Well, this was a boring game. This is a boring game. Well, it was two really good defenses playing really good defense.
It was fascinating because the defenses were playing so well. You're like, okay, at some point, like one PI, anything could shift the whole game.
I was very thankful none of those penalties happened either. right? It was decided on the field. It wasn't decided by penalties.
They let them actually go out there and play a little bit.
They did. They let them play, and both teams did a good job. The Broncos defense is something to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah,
in this league. And I kept saying all during the week, I went on like John Chapman and I said, let's just hope this isn't the week the offense for the Broncos clicks.
Gets going, yeah, exactly.
But the good news was the 49ers defense just stood up. So
2,000 Ravens here coming up.
All right, let's turn the page. The Rams are coming up. The Rams are the division leading team right now. They have the win over Arizona. They're sitting there at 2-1. The 49ers at 1-2 in second place in the division. The 49ers always play the Rams really tough. And,
they're out of the last 7 games.
Yeah, the NFC Championship game, of course, is the glaring one. It's a close battle. The 49ers led most of the football game. So it's not exactly like the Rams have a recipe, right, that just they're going to beat the 49ers every time. But, Jason, I'm curious what you're most looking forward to this game, because a win by the 49ers.
They're technically back in first place.
They are in first place because they'll have 2 division wins, which is absolutely huge. So what are you thinking about this 49ers versus Rams Monday night matchup?
I don't know. Like, I keep thinking, like, okay, the Rams, they're the defending Super Bowl champs. It looks like after the NFC Championship, Sean sort of figured out a couple things on both sides of the ball to kind of slow down at least the offense. Because if you remember, the Monday night game last November, San Francisco won like 31-7, and it wasn't even that close really. So, and then the NFC Championship game they only scored 17. So I'm not really haven't got a good feel yet about what the offense is going to be, because it didn't look very good this week. But I watched a lot of the Rams and Cardinal game too yesterday, and the Rams have won 2 games, and both of those games, like, they could be 0-3 right now too. Like, that's the one thing where if Kyler gets 1 touchdown, they win that game. If Jalen Ramsey doesn't make a heck of a play against Falcons, they lose that game too. So the Rams aren't as dominant or even playing as well as they played last year. So in some ways, it feels like 2 teams who are both playing below their talent level right now. So I don't think it's as uphill as we would initially think after last night for Niners to actually get win.
The Rams are replacing, what is it, like 11 starters from last year,
and key spots too.
Yeah, this isn't the same football team. You're missing left tackle.
Andrew Whitworth was a big loss.
That was a big loss.
It really was.
They added Wagner, which is fantastic, but you lose Von Miller. One of the keys to beating the 49ers is pressure, right?
No OBJ too.
Yeah, getting after Jimmy Garoppolo has been a way to win. That is the difference between the 31-7 matchup you're talking about and the NFC Championship is Von Miller coming off the outside and helping Leonard Floyd, I'm sorry.
Leonard
Little, sorry. Wrong guy.
Guilty as charged.
But you had a different guy coming off the edge. So that is a different matchup than what you're going to get in this game. They're not as good in that area. So I think that the 49ers are going to have to establish a run game, and they know exactly what they're going to get. You might as well take what you saw in the NFC Championship game from the Rams and just put it right in this game, and then take some of the principles the Broncos did and put it right in this game, and understand now Kyle knows what he's got to do. He knows what the sum of parts are, and he's got to be willing to run the football. That's number one. And I know he tried in this game, but that's what you got to do. But this is an interesting matchup for the fact that I don't think the Rams are who they were last year, and I think the 49ers right now aren't who they should be because they have so many injuries at key positions. Trent Williams is another big loss. Same thing in the NFC Championship game last year. The only thing that we got going for us is there's no Vaughn. But they've got to get this run game going without Trent Williams now, with a young interior offensive line. So it's going to be a fun matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of key battles in this game. Jalen Ramsey talked about how difficult it is for Debo, to cover Debo. But you don't have Eric Weddle either.
Yep.
What are the safeties going to do against these 49ers, tight ends and receivers? Because Kittle will be coming into his second week.
He should be
back.
a little more active too. Speaking of the interior line, did you see that when they did the starting lineup thing, that obviously entering play last night, Aaron Banks was the number 2 ranked left guard according to Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, Aaron Banks has played absolutely fantastic.
Interesting. Yeah, I was like,
in fact,
look at that.
Spencer Burford's played really well too.
I think he was like either 11th or 12th, which is still for a rookie. That's not bad.
Yeah, interior offensive line, the guards have held up. Jake Brendel struggled.
Yes.
And, I think Daniel Brunskill, it could be in the mix to play center when he comes back.
We'll see if
the problem is Forster doesn't like to upset chemistry. So we'll see, but you might have to just to get better, because I can tell you right now, Kyle Shannon's going to get very upset with these, exchange issues between center and quarterback. And we saw it at training camp too. Brendel had the same problems with Trey Lance that he's having with Jimmy Garoppolo. He likes to get moving on these run plays, which I fully, like.
The quarterback needs to actually get the ball there first.
The ball hit Jimmy Garoppolo's, end of his fingers. Jimmy wasn't pulling out as far as Brendel was taking off. That he needs to secure that snap, but it's tough. And Jason, it's that time. The score prediction
I've
time.
been so bad in 2 of the first 3 weeks. It's embarrassing.
49ers versus Rams, Monday Night Football matchup at Levi Stadium. Do the 49ers tie the Rams for the NFC West lead?
I'm saying
do they fall to 1-3?
They fall to 1-3.
Oh my God. Send your hate mail right now.
Rams are going to win this game 20-16.
Wow. And give me a couple reasons why.
They started to kind of pound Cam a little bit, and Cam he did fumble again too. But I just think the threat of him will be something that will get our linebackers' attention, and they might not drop off into helping on Cooper Kupp's so much. And I just think not having Trent, if we had Trent, I would probably go Niners like 19-16. But I just think without Trent, it gives the Rams a chance to move Aaron kind of around to different spots, and if he's out there if against McKivitz or whoever, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting matchup all over the place. Who's Jalen Ramsey going to go take away? Where will Aaron Donald line up? I think there's, key things like that. Can this run game for the 49ers get going? You brought up the run game for the Rams. 49ers really haven't struggled against the run game the entire year. They've done a really good job against, the 3 teams that they played. I think it's going to be interesting. So Jason picks the 49ers to lose. He wanted to do it last week, but then he saw how bad the Broncos offense had been playing and came back.
I wasn't wrong about that part.
It's inevitable for Jason to pick against the 49ers. Will I pick against the 49ers? We'll see. That's going to happen on the game preview show on Thursday. So I'll make that pick.
Bus right over me. Just
yeah, it's okay.
Rocking the Under Armour hat after my boy Jordan Spieth with a dominant President's Cup. At least somebody got the job done and could close out a victory.
You're talking golf again?
I am talking golf again.
It's not even a team sport.
It was this week. It was the President's Cup.
Oh.
USA beat the national team.
Whoop-de-doo.
It's a win. Giants are trashed. Niners can't win games and
can't win games. They won one already this year.
They're 1-2. And
what were they last year before they went on a run and made the playoffs?
My Lakers are bad too, so I need to treasure any win I can get. And the Sharks are god awful too.
Jason's just living his poor life in a life of despair.
I am.
Everyone should just feel sorry for Jason's fandom. He's just suffering right now. Poor Jason.
Very emotional.
Yeah, I guess so. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode.
All these damn
even
Warrior
with
fans.
Even with Jay Hill struggling so much with his fandom. But hopefully you didn't struggle to go ahead and like this video and hit that subscribe button so you can get more content like this. Me and Jason don't always agree on topics, but it's fun to have a conversation about it.
Most of the time, we do, though.
Yeah, so it's going to be a fun week. 49ers versus Rams.
Let's go to Patreon next, because that's going to be wild, because the Jimmy M boy is going to be in here soon. I'm going to eat him alive.
That's true. And Jason's talking about 49ers face-off that's over on Patreon, exclusively on Patreon, where Horst from Slightly Offsides is going to go one-on-one with Jason
explain his
in
Jimmy Love to
49ers
me
face-off.
big time.
And Jimmy Garoppolo will be one of the talking points, I'm sure. Fireworks are coming, as Horst said in his opening video. They had to bring in security so he doesn't kill Jason. It's going to be absolutely fantastic.
This week, I'll be the one killing him.
So make sure you're over on Patreon for 4 Yards Face Off. Have a go, and we'll catch you next week for another Ant Hill show.